Okay, so here we are at the getting to the solution now for how to write the rhymer. And I'd like to um, go back to working on this stemmer function. So I talked a lot about how this could work, and I'd like to talk about how I decided to make it work. Um, I'm going to, I have brought in the string module here because I'm going to need that. I'm going to define the consonants again, just like I did before. The way I did it in the REPL. So consonants are going to be equal to, first I'm going to use a list comprehension, C for C in string ASCII lowercase, um, and if that C is not in A, E, I, O, U. And that's going to give me a list, so I need to turn that back into a string by doing the join operation on it. Let me see if I can format that. Okay. So that's going to give me back the consonants that I'm going to need to create that regular expression, and I'm just going to go snag that from my code over here where I was running it in the REPL. I can take this line right here. That was what I was working on, and I want to create a match object where I do a match using those consonants captured, make that optional, followed by 0 or more of anything in the word. And then I was talking about in the intro about this rather complicated uh, um, return statement where I want to return, if there is a match, I want to return whatever's in group 1 or the empty string, whatever's in group 2 or the empty string. And if there was no match at all, I want to return just 2 empty strings. With that, I'm going to go here and I'm going to run PyTest on this program so that I can run the test stemmer against the stemmer. And I want to see, does that work? So it passes the first test of the empty string. It passes cake is split into C and egg. Chair is split into the right parts, but apple does not get split. And specifically here, I was making sure that I was passing in an uppercase word because I decided I would only deal with lowercase matches here. And so there is a way to add in here re dot ignore case. That is a flag that we can use to say ignore case when we're matching. But the problem is that it would still give me back the uppercase letters. So for the way this program is going to work, I need to match against the lowercase version of the word. So I'll run that, I'll change that, and then I want to run it against that. And now all of these pass now. So all of my ideas of like, the empty string, a single leading consonant, a leading consonant cluster, no leading consonants, and then nothing but consonants. All of these ideas about good and bad input for my function are now passing my test. And so now I have a function that does seem to do what I want. I want to take one moment here to talk about how I can write this a little bit differently in such a way that it can be more documented. So this is rather difficult to read and make out. It took us a while to create this. And so I can break this up into individual strings. Um, and Python does an interesting thing on the command line with, um, actually let's put this on one line. I could break this up like this. And if you continue a line, a string on multiple lines, it will just automatically concatenate them. And I'd like to get this the same way I wrote it in the example. And then we're going to match that on lower. So I'm able to document this by saying, uh, leading consonant. How did I do that here? Capture one or more. This is a nice way, and I'm saying that it's optional. So capture leading consonants. And so what's going on here is that this this string here is automatically concatenated with the string below. It's a really weird part of the syntax that's in Python, but it works. And here I'm showing here a fairly complicated regular expression where I'm breaking up all of these strings onto individual lines, and there's no plus sign at the end. I'm just simply putting string literals on line after line, and it is getting concatenated into, and actually it is a little easier if I take this and I'm going to put this into a, I like the way I did that in the solution. I'm going to create something called pattern here. And I'm going to put those on individual lines. And then I'm going to match the pattern to the lowercase word. And here I'm showing here, I actually got a little bit more crazy with the, let me see if I can just capture this and paste it in. It's a pretty nice, I'll just put this here into my code. And let's see if I can format this real quick. Still learning this IDE. Almost. Messed up something there. These need to be indented. Okay, so I've got this pattern. And the idea, the reason why I want to write it this way is so that I can write I can document this here at the end um, with, what this is, and then I can write, and so I'm documenting with comments, and so these comments will be ignored, but this string will be joined together, and so I can say, leading consonants, and then capture, and then I could say a vowel, and the way that I've tried to write this um, with the words, hopefully it makes sense too, and I don't necessarily need all of these extra bits. But it doesn't hurt. If you need to write a long line in Python, you can just break it up over into individual string literals and put them on lines like this. And in a little, especially if you need to put parentheses around them, and then Python will just automatically join them together into one string, and it will ignore all the spaces in the middle. It will ignore these new lines. It will ignore all the comments and just make it into a string literal for you. Um, 1, 0 or more, and then I can put here end capture. So that is the way I would tend to write a complicated regular expression in code like this. I think that it looks much nicer that way. Let me just run my test to make sure it still works. Vowels not defined. Okay, so I decided that I would make this into vowels. And I can define vowels is equal to A-E-I-O-U. And here I decided in this solution, I guess, to ensure that there is at least one vowel in the word. Both the version I wrote in the intro and this version both pass all of these tests. So it's just fine, whichever one you want to use. So given, in the next video, I'm going to talk about how to use the stemmer to create the output.